welcome to Crosswinds Church. We're so glad you're joining us today. We're out here in the church lobby, and we are going to worship and celebrate the power and might of our God. So sing this out. Sing just one word. Just one word. You calm the storm that surrounds me. Just one word. The darkness has to retreat. Just one touch, I feel the presence of heaven. Just one touch, my eyes are open to see. My heart can't help but believe that there's nothing that our God can't do. There's not a mountain that He can move. Oh, praise the name that makes a way. There's nothing that our God can't do. Oh, just one word, you heal what's broken within me. Just one word, and you revive every dream. Just one touch, I feel the power of heaven. Just one touch, my eyes are open to see. My heart can't help but believe that there's nothing that our God can't do. There's not a mountain that He can move. Oh, praise the name that makes a way. There's nothing that our God can't do. No, there's nothing that our God can't do. There's not a prison wall He can't break through. Oh, praise the name that makes a way. There's nothing that our God can't do. Oh. Sing, I will believe. I will believe for greater things. There's no power like the power of Jesus. Let faith arise. Let all agree. There's no power like the power of Jesus. I will believe for greater things. There's no power like the power of Jesus. Let faith arise. Let all agree. There's no power like the power of Jesus. I will believe for greater things. There's no power like the power of Jesus. Let faith arise. Let all agree. There's no power like His power. There's nothing that our God can't do. There's not a mountain that He can move. Oh, praise His name that makes a way. There's nothing that our God can't do. There's nothing that our God can't do. There's not a prison wall He can't break through. Oh, praise the name that makes a way. There's nothing that our God can't do. No. Oh, I believe it. Yeah, I believe it. Oh.
Welcome to Crosswinds at Home. My name is Zach, and I'm one of our students' pastors here. I hope that this service reaches you well and safe. We are continuing to look for ways to get connected. So in light of that, we have started Sunday night prayer. So, in the midst of our new routines and ever-changing weeks, take a break and come pray with us at 6 p.m. Sunday evenings around the Courtyard Fire Pit. If you're not used to praying in a group, this is still a place for you. There will be guided and open prayer. Please email Carol Taylor if you have any questions. We hope to see you there. I have some good news to share with you. The county has now lifted the under 100 guideline for outdoor gatherings. This means that we no longer have this limit for how many can attend our Sunday morning gatherings in person. Now, this doesn't mean you get off the hook of reserving your spot. We are committed to keeping this a safe gathering. So, we will keep our structures in place for contact tracing. Please join us next Sunday at 10 a.m. Oh, and don't worry, you can still experience our classic Crosswinds online service from your couch at home. Here at Crosswinds, we have plenty of ways you can support this ministry financially. And I want to thank those of you who have been doing that. Your support allows our ministries to keep going. Just last week, our Level Up kids, that's 4th and 5th grade if you don't know, met here on campus for a 2-day camp-style gathering. It was awesome, so fun, and it happened because of your giving. As for today, we are continuing our talk about how we tear down the walls that block us from being able to have healthy conversations, especially in the areas where we disagree with each other. You will hear more from Chris in a moment, but my guess is that you already are very familiar with the wall that we are talking about today. It has to do with how easily we accept something as fact when it might be very far from it.
How to spread a rumor. Got some information you want to circulate quickly and extensively? Learn what it takes to get people to pass it along. You will need a juicy story, a testable credential, a gullible person, and repetition. Optional, fear-mongering. Step 1. Keep it simple. Research shows that rumors are more likely to spread if they are uncomplicated. Keep the cruelty in check. Remember that rumors have the potential to ruin reputations. Step 2. Include a vivid detail that is easy to envision, which helps plant the story in people's minds, as well as making it easier to believe. Step 3. Make sure the story is difficult to disprove, so a little fact-checking doesn't stop it in its tracks. Step 4. Make it shocking, but feasible. Rumors that spread quickly are bizarre enough to be titillating, but not so outlandish as to be unbelievable. A rumor that preys on a specific fear is more likely to be passed on. Step 5. Give it a testable credential, a detail that can be proven, even if it doesn't prove the story itself. Step 6. Get the ball rolling by telling it to someone gullible. Extra points if they also have a big mouth. Step 7. Keep the story alive by repeating it often. Research shows that the more we hear a rumor, the more we'll believe it, even if we're being told it's false. Did you know? Researchers have found that workplace rumors are about 95% accurate.
Nana, how many times have I been over this? You've got to stop forwarding me these emails. I mean, come on. Do you really think the Hollywood sign is a secret entrance to an underground bunker for celebrities? Something's got to be done.
Please stop forwarding these emails. My inbox doesn't have enough room. The government's not trying to clone everyone. You cannot get COVID through Zoom. Facebook's not gonna shut me down. I don't have to send them a code. And please don't believe that Nigerian prince. We all know it's a scam. He can't make you rich. Please, Nana. All that I'm asking is that you check your facts. Please, Nana. Oh, before you send, will you please check your facts? Dennis Rodman isn't an alien just because he has some strange quirks. I'm sure it's still safe to watch Shrek all I want. China does not own DreamWorks. The ones that demand to be forwarded I can't take it, they're really the worst. No, I won't pass along to my 10 closest friends. There's no such thing as a chain letter curse. Please, Nana, all that I'm asking is that you check your facts. Please, Nana, oh, before you send, will you please check your facts? There is a website, it was made just for you. Snopes.com will tell you if what you're sending me is true. Alright. Come on, Nana. Oh, please. Nana, no, no. Stop sending me so many emails. These hoaxes that simply aren't real. The moon landing wasn't staged by Hollywood actors. The Marriott Rewards Club isn't offering you a deal. Nana! All that I am asking is that you check your facts. Please, Nana. All before you send, will you please check your facts? Come on, Nana. All that I am asking is that you check your facts. Please, Nana. Oh, before you send, will you please check your facts?
Delete, mark as spam, and delete.
Bridges span the divide. Lands once separated by unattainable space, now connected one to another, crossing vast waters and gentle creeks, stretching mid-air over deep ravines. Whether formed of the strongest steel or old hewn wood, whether a feat of architecture or formed by nature itself. Bridges stretch wide their arms, making an impossible journey real, providing safe passage to those wishing to cross. There's connection and union where a separation used to be. But what happens when that path is obstructed and barriers emerge and walls land in the middle?
So a few weeks or months ago, I was watching something on TV. I cannot remember what it was. I wish I could give it credit. If you know what I was watching after hearing this story, email me, because this is driving me crazy. But it was talking about something, this phenomenon that happens in our minds called the Mandela effect. Because of its name, you might think it has something to do with Nelson Mandela. And of course, it does, a little, and I'll explain how. But what it is when you are convinced, absolutely convinced that something is true because you have a memory of actually experiencing it. But it is in fact not true, never was true, it's just that your mind thinks it was. It's called the Mandela effect because Nelson Mandela died in 2013, and yet many, many people, when he died in 2013, were shocked. They could have sworn that he died in the 1980s. They remember him dying in the 1980s. It's not true. It's just that their mind or their memory convinced them that it was. There are all sorts of examples of this. I'm going to give you a few. Maybe you'll experience the Mandela effect right now. Many people swear that once upon a time there was a brand of peanut butter named Jiffy. How many of you watching or listening to this right now remember there being a Jiffy peanut butter? Well, in fact, there was never a Jiffy peanut butter. There was a Jif peanut butter, still is, and a Skippy, no Jiffy. Let's try one with spelling. How many of you remember seeing a box of cereal and spelling Fruit Loops? F-R-U-I-T Loops. Actually, since its inception, Fruit Loops has been spelled with 2 O's in fruit. That doesn't even look right to me. I swear I have never seen it spelled like that before, but apparently that's how it's always been spelled. Okay, how many of you believe that the Monopoly Man has a monocle? You distinctly remember him looking very wealthy and hoity-toity with a top hat and a monocle. All right, the Monopoly Man has never had a monocle. Maybe we're confusing him with Mr. Peanut. Okay, Star Wars fans, C-3PO. Most of us, when asked to describe C-3PO as we saw him in the first 3 movies, the original trilogy, we would say he is a gold-colored droid. We don't remember there ever being any other color on him but the gold. You guys, I was C-3PO for Halloween in first grade in 1978. I know what C-3PO looks like. He was all gold. But actually, C-3PO had one silver shin in those first 3 movies. Every single scene. All right, those are examples of the Mandela effect. And they're kind of fun to look at and mess around with. There are so many more. Just go Google this phenomenon. You're bound to find at least a few things you believed were true that are just not true. And again, these are not just cases where you thought wrong, but often they're cases where you have a visceral reaction when you hear the truth. You might even reject the truth because you know that you are right. You trust your memory or your knowledge of something that just isn't true. Well, what does that have to do with the series that we're in, The Middle? What does it have to do with this idea of crossing a bridge over a divide, our continued efforts to try to be in healthy relationships with people that we disagree with? Well, have you ever had it happen that the thing that seems to put a brick wall in the middle of your bridge is the other person so believing something to be true that just isn't? This whole series, we're looking at brick walls that get plopped down, or really built, in the middle of a bridge that we're all trying to cross to maintain good relationships with people we disagree with. And we can't seem to get across because these walls keep blocking the way. If you've been watching, we've looked at 3 so far. If you haven't, I encourage you, go back, listen to those messages or watch those, because today I want to give you the 4th. And it is a wall that happens when the person that we're talking to has wrong information and is unwilling to hear real truth. This barrier in the middle of the bridge has to do with someone believing something that isn't true and you finding an unwillingness in them to hear actual facts. I'll just tell you right now, this is going to be an interesting one today. This is something I've never done a message on before. And a part of where this is different, the previous 3 weeks, we've kind of presupposed that to tear down the brick walls, you need to look at yourself and see where maybe you might be doing some things wrong, or maybe you've been believing something wrong. I've asked you each week to at least have some moment of gut check and humility. All right, this week, I'm going to presuppose that you know the other person is wrong, and they just won't listen. What do you do? Well, let me start answering that by showing you what this 4th brick wall really is. And I want you to see it in the Bible. If you're following along, it's in John 9. And this wall, we actually see it in the aftermath of a healing that Jesus does. What happens right before where we're going to read, Jesus sees a blind man, a man who was blind from his birth. What I mean is he was born blind, and the disciples ask Jesus, who sinned, the man or his parents, that he was born blind? Because in their religion, in their world, they believed that if someone was physically disabled, if somebody had something physically wrong with them, God was punishing them for their sin. And so Jesus says, neither of those things are true about this man, but watch what God is about to do in his life. And after he says this, Jesus spits on the dirt ground. He makes some mud. He mixes it in his hands. He puts it on the man's eyes, and the man is healed. Now, I want you to understand, this kind of thing, unheard of. Maybe a person who had temporarily lost their sight could regain it. Maybe. But no one born blind in their world would ever find themselves able to see. And remember, this is not just a vision issue to them. To the people in that world, this is also a faith issue. His disability is seen as a punishment from God. All right, we pick up in verse 14. It says, now, it was a Sabbath day when Jesus made the mud and opened his eyes. And then the Pharisees also began to ask the man how he received his sight. And he said to them, Jesus put mud on my eyes, then I washed, and now I see. Okay, take a look at what happens, verse 16. Some of the Pharisees said, this man is not from God, Jesus, for he does not observe the Sabbath. But others said, how can a man who's a sinner perform such signs? And they were divided. So, some Pharisees see this healing as proof that Jesus is not from God, because somebody from God would never break the law and heal on the Sabbath. Other Pharisees said, well, wait, if Jesus is a sinner, then how did he have the power to do this? Because nobody heals people born blind. Now, look at verse 18. And I want to show this to you in a different translation than the one I usually am using. This is from the Passion Translation, and I like it for this because it's conversational. Take a look at verse 18. Still refusing to believe that the man had been healed and was truly blind from birth, the Jewish leaders called for the man's parents to be brought to them. So they asked his parents, "Is this your son?" "Yes," they answered. "Was he really born blind?" "Yes, he was," they replied. And so they pressed his parents to answer, "Then how is it that he is now seeing?" It says the Pharisees did not believe that he was born blind. The Pharisees refused to believe the truth. But there's more going on here than that. The Pharisees start putting out misinformation. They are leaking to the community that this man was never really born blind in order to deny the truth that they don't like, that Jesus is from God, that he can heal. They create a new untruth or some misinformation, hoping that it will take hold. They say Jesus didn't heal the man because he was never blind in the first place, or at least not born that way. And they think that one way they can slow down the Jesus train that all these people seem to be hopping on is to question whether these miracles are even real. In order to keep disagreement about Jesus alive among the people, they introduce a new brick wall on the bridge, the brick wall of misinformation. If you have two sets of people who disagree with each other, but who are wanting to start to see eye to eye, and they're starting to come together and discuss their differences and meet in the middle of the bridge, one of the most effective things you can do to mess it up is drop a brick wall on their bridge, and what I think is probably the most challenging one, the wall of misinformation. These Pharisees, thousands of years ago, did this, and that's fascinating to me because it's actually something that is also very prevalent in our world right now, this brick wall. With our 24-hour news cycles and our social media and in an information age where our phones are attached to us all the time, you would think that we have the ability to be more informed than ever. Guess what? We actually have the ability to be more misinformed. Because all it takes is someone saying 3 little words and misinformation starts to gain traction. All it takes is someone opening a sentence with these 3 words. You ready? People are saying. Misinformation starts to spread. I went on that Nextdoor app a few months ago, the one that is kind of like a Facebook for your neighborhood, where people post about their lost dogs and how they have free lemons you can come grab out of a box at the end of their driveway. And somebody wrote, "I saw a suspicious black truck driving around our neighborhood, and I talked with somebody else who lives near me, and they saw it too, and we think that it's casing houses for future robberies because we had never seen it before, and people are saying," there it is, "people are saying there's an East Bay robbery syndicate that drives black trucks and blah, blah, blah." Before I knew it, there were many, many comments and everyone was saying it. Meanwhile, that woman's good new neighbor who just bought that truck and parks it in his garage is worried that everybody thinks he's casing their house when he drives through their neighborhood on his way to work. Andrea and I read that Kaiser, if you're a Kaiser member, we read that Kaiser has a wait list to get the COVID vaccine, and that at the end of the day, if there's some left, they don't want to waste it. And if you live or you work within a few minutes of Kaiser, you can be on that wait list, and they'll call you to come in and get your shot. People were saying this because somebody started saying this. So when Andrea and I were already at Kaiser one day, we popped into that clinic and we asked, is this true? And they said, no, but lots of people have been stopping by wasting our time because people have been saying it. In other words, stop saying it. Well, this is what the Pharisees do. They say, I know that you're all thinking that Jesus did something miraculous for this guy, but do you know what people are saying? He was never blind to begin with. Or, people are saying that the mud that Jesus put on his eyes is actually a very common cure for temporary blindness. That's all that happened. Jesus did anything anybody else could have done. Unfortunately, people are saying works to get your information out there and to get it believed. I'll tell you, I so want to try this at home with my family. People are saying that you're going to make my favorite meals all week, do the dishes, cater to my every whim just to show how much you love me. I don't know if it's true or not. All I know is it's what people are saying. That's what's out there. Might be some truth to it. This is what the Pharisees do. And to help their case, they even try to intimidate this man's parents to agree. Look at that. It says, so they asked his parents, "Is this your son?" "Yes," they answered. "Was he really born blind?" Like you could help us out a lot by saying no right now, but the parents say, "Yes, he was." And the Pharisees pressed his parents to answer, "Well, then how is it that he's now seeing?" Like, they won't take the truth. They just heard the truth. They won't take it and let it correct their wrong information. They just keep pushing forward. Nope, can't be, because people born blind cannot be healed. All right there, more misinformation. Think about that. If Jesus is going to do a miracle, it doesn't matter if you were born blind or became blind later in life. A miracle's a miracle. How you were born isn't going to stop a miracle worker like Jesus. This is the fourth brick wall, and let me just make sure that we have defined this well, all right? Misinformation. False information spread or believed that someone cannot seem to let go of. When you are trying to cross a bridge to somebody you disagree with, or at least meet in the middle, and you find that person has bad information and they refuse to see that it's wrong, you have run into a brick wall. What do you do? I'm going to tell you what to do, but real quick, let's just look at the rest of the story. Okay, where we left off, the Pharisees say to the parents, if he was really born blind, how can he now see? And in verse 21, they reply, we have no idea. We don't know what happened to our son. Ask him. He's a mature adult. He could speak for himself. Now, it says in parentheses, the parents were obviously intimidated by the Jewish religious leaders, for they had already announced to the people that if anyone publicly confessed Jesus as the Messiah, they would be excommunicated. That's why they told them, ask him. He's a mature adult. He can speak for himself. So, once again, they summoned the man who was healed of blindness, and they said to him, swear to God to tell us the truth. We know the man who healed you is a sinful man. Do you agree? More misinformation right there, by the way. They start spreading the word that Jesus is sinful. Verse 25, the healed man replied, I have no idea what kind of man Jesus is. All I know is that I was blind and now I can see for the first time in my life. But what did he do to you, they asked. How did he heal you? The man responded, I told you once and you didn't listen to me. Why do you make me repeat it? Do you see how they won't listen to the actual truth? He's already told them. They're so convinced of this misinformation that's out there, they will not hear it. Let's skip to verse 30. The man said, you don't even know where he comes from, but he healed my eyes and now I can see. We know that God doesn't listen to sinners, but only to godly people who do his will. Yet, who has ever heard of a man born blind that was healed and given back his eyesight? I tell you, if this man isn't from God, he wouldn't be able to heal me like he has. The man, again, tries to give them correct information. He tries to help them see the truth, and it's obvious. It's so clear. But look at how they respond when given that correct information. Verse 34, some of the Jewish leaders were enraged and said, just who do you think you are to lecture us? You were born a blind, filthy sinner. So they threw the man out in the street. They just can't get past the misinformation. And the brick wall is so strong, they actually kick this guy off his side of the metaphorical bridge. All right, have you seen this in your disagreements with people? Justin Lee, who wrote this book that I referenced a few weeks ago on Talking Across the Divide, he tells the story of this time that he was a waiter in 2001, and this was following the 9/11 attacks. Dr. Pepper had just released a series of can designs that were patriotic and meant to show unity. Way to go, Dr. Pepper. What a cool way to unite Americans after such a huge tragedy. Well, the can had a picture of the Statue of Liberty, and then it had these words, one nation, ... indivisible, running around the top of the can. And the design sparked controversy because an email circulated saying that Dr. Pepper intentionally cut out the words "under God" from the Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Pepper put an ellipses in its place. Well, this email gave the false impression that Dr. Pepper had printed the entire Pledge of Allegiance on their cans and then just left out those two words, when in fact, you can see it right here, they had not. It's clear if you look at it, they're just trying to say we are one nation, indivisible. That's all that was on there. That's the point. But this email started circulating. And then, to make matters worse, somebody added to the email going around that Dr. Pepper was a Pepsi product, which at the time it was not. No connection at all at the time. And the controversy was big enough, Dr. Pepper had to put a statement out, and so did Pepsi, who had nothing to do with this. By 2002, the can was retired from circulation, but the email was still going strong. Well, Justin Lee tells a story. He was waiting tables at a restaurant that served Pepsi products, and a woman asked him for a Coke, and he did the usual, "We don't have Coke. Is Pepsi okay?" And she said, "That is not okay. Do you have Sprite?" And he said, "No, we have Slice, which is the Pepsi version of Sprite." And she said, "No, I don't want anything made by Pepsi. I am boycotting Pepsi. You should tell your manager that there are a lot of people who will not be eating here if you keep serving Pepsi products. You might not know, but they're putting out cans that take God out of the Pledge of Allegiance. As a Christian, that's offensive to me, so I'm choosing not to give them any more of my money." And so knowing what he knew, Justin said back, "Oh yeah, I heard about that. Turns out it wasn't Pepsi at all. It was a misunderstanding." And she said, "No, it was Pepsi. I read about it. You tell your manager what I said." All right, that was 2001. 20 years later, doesn't it sound like you hear stories very similar to this one all the time? And there are so many problems when this happens, especially for Christians. We make ourselves look gullible when we buy into these unsubstantiated rumors. And let's be honest, it's dangerous. Because sometimes scientific research will show that something is good, but the misinformation put out there actually can cause serious and sometimes permanent health risks. Now, this is all innocent enough, but it's still dangerous. It's innocent enough when it's an accident, when people don't know they're wrong. But when it's not just misinformation, but it's disinformation, then we get into real trouble as a world. This past September, there were terrible fires up in Southern Oregon. There are terrible fires everywhere, here as well, but also up in Southern Oregon. And an area that our family goes a lot, and specifically a greenway that my daughter Quinn and I have done a lot of bike riding on between Ashland and Medford, it burned up. It's this greenway where there's a river or creek, but it's also got lots of housing stacked right up against the greenway as it moves north along I-5. Well, this greenway has a beautiful trail, fast-flowing creek, plenty of trees and blackberry bushes, and I will tell you, observationally, anecdotally, a good amount of homeless people living and camping throughout this greenway. In fact, a month before this big fire, as Quinn and I were riding the trail, it looped down at one point to go under a small overpass. Small overpass made of lots of old burnable wood, and we ran into a homeless man and his dogs who had started a decent-sized fire under the overpass so that he could keep warm. And I remember thinking that might be the most dangerous place that you could start a fire. Anyway, a month later, a fire started, a huge fire, a devastating fire. More than 2,300 homes were lost in these fires, including the house my aunt lived in. And I watched all of this happen on the news. I just kept the news on all day, following the progress and seeing if they could get this fire out. And throughout, I'd be on the phone with my parents asking if they were going to have to evacuate their house, things like that. So at one point, I was on the phone with my mom, and she said, "Chris, people are saying that it's Antifa that set these fires." I said, "Mom, I don't think Antifa chose to come to your small town and start fires near a creek and a greenway full of homeless people. I don't think that's what happened." "Well, people are saying they did it in Portland. Why not do it down here?" Okay, get this. I noticed online a few days later, rumors started spreading that it was the Proud Boys that started the fires. and a picture this time of a person who supposedly did it. And they made it look like a real Medford police post putting this information out there. They stole their logo and everything. And guess what happened? In the comment section of that fake post, somebody wrote, "Hang him," under this guy's picture. Let's kill the man. All right, the Medford police debunked it. They wrote this. "This is a made-up graphic and story. We did not arrest this person for arson, nor anyone affiliated with Antifa or the Proud Boys," as we've heard throughout the day. "Also, no confirmed gatherings of Antifa, which has also been reported." The next day, the FBI addresses these reports saying this: "Conspiracy theories and misinformation take valuable resources away from local fire and police agencies working around the clock to bring these fires under control." Look, my mom is a smart woman. This can happen to any of us. Lots of smart people who are given wrong information. And disinformation spreads like a wildfire. And that's often what the people who are spreading it want to see happen. So let's talk about how we take care of this brick wall that finds its way onto the middle of our bridge. And I'll tell you, this one is tricky because there are problems that make this wall hard to tear down. But there are some solutions. I'm going to show you 3 problems and 3 solutions. And again, I want to just give credit to Justin Lee for these. He came up with these 3. By the way, I know there's not much time left in the sermon, so I'm going to do these real quickly, all right? Here's the first problem that leads to this misinformation wall. Here it is. The lie is simple, the truth is complex. The lie is simple, the truth is complex. We live in a world of sound bites and clickbait, and the fact is, people are more likely to notice, remember, share things that they can understand in a matter of seconds. Most of us don't have the time and energy to read every article we come across or every fact. And so, unfortunately, the truth is complex, and lies, when they are simple, are often far easier to understand and believe. NPR once posted a fake news story, and they called it, "Why Doesn't America Read Anymore?" That was the headline. The article was literally 6 sentences long, and it basically said, if you are reading this, do us a favor and don't comment in the comments below. And they ran this to see how many people wouldn't actually read the article, but just read the headline that says America doesn't read anymore. And then those people would fire back with outrage. All right, so many people ended up commenting because headlines are simple, articles get complex. So the problem, lies are usually simple, truth is complex. What do? Solution, make sure you can sum up your truths as simply as possible. If you're going to get around this brick wall of misinformation, it is likely not going to be because you have a well thought out extended essay of an argument and someone will read your 20-page treatise. It's going to be because you've been able to sum up your truth as simply as possible. Look, I'm a pastor. I realize I can't say anything in less than 30 minutes. So I get how challenging this is. I also get that simple summaries are far more effective than long explanations, which is why a lot of what I want to say on a Sunday hits the cutting room floor. It's why I'm only 30 minutes instead of 2 hours. But often, with misinformed people, even 30 minutes is too long. You need to be able to share your truth in 30 seconds. You've got to be able to simplify it if you're going to help them hear and understand it instead of the much simpler misinformation. All right, let me give you the second problem that's leading to this brick wall of misinformation and then a solution for the second one, all right? People are continuing to believe misinformation because they think they are already experts. They're convinced they already know everything about the subject that you're debating with them. Because most of us think we know more about a lot of things than we actually do know. A number of years ago, a couple of cognitive scientists asked people on a scale of 1 to 7, how well do you know how zippers work? I'll just ask you to think about that right now. 1 to 7, how well do you know how zippers work? All right, most people felt that they understood how zippers work pretty well, so they gave themselves really high marks. All right, then the researchers asked a second question. Describe in as much detail as possible all the steps in a zipper's operation. Well, that's actually quite a bit harder to do accurately. So after asking them to do that, describe in detail all the steps, they asked the same question from the beginning. How well do you understand how zippers work, 1 to 7? And of course, people rated themselves much lower than the first time. So here's the solution to this problem that puts up a brick wall, the problem of people thinking that they're already an expert. The solution? Gently ask questions. Ask questions, but be careful how you do it. The solution is not to point out how wrong they are or show them all that you know. The solution is to gently ask questions that give them a chance to explain their knowledge, and then watch them as they do see that maybe they're not as knowledgeable as they thought they were. The key here, it's to find a way for people to discover they don't know everything on their own. You want them to figure that out on their own in a way that doesn't embarrass them or make them feel stupid. Okay, third problem in a solution for this one. The third thing that leads to this brick wall of misinformation is the fact that oftentimes people only see what they want to see. Look at the Pharisees in this story. This is what they did, right? They wanted to see that Jesus could not have healed this man. They wanted to see that Jesus was a sinner. So they created a narrative where there was no other option than the man was not born blind. All right. You ever feel when you're disagreeing with somebody that the standard of evidence that they require of you is way higher than the standard they require for their own side? And in the age of the internet, it's like not hard at all to find a little bit of evidence for their side. If there's even a shred of evidence for their side, they become even more convinced that theirs is right. All right, here's a potential solution. Use stories to show the truth. Use stories. If you look at the Gospels and all the misinformation spread about Jesus, you want to know today why we know the truth? Because of these stories. Because John, who was watching this event with the blind man happen at the time it happened, said, hey, those of you who are still wondering who Jesus is, or maybe you're questioning because of some misinformation out there, let me tell you what I saw happen with this guy that was born blind. And let me tell you what his parents said, that he had grown up blind all those years. And let me tell you what his life looked like after that. There is power in a well-told story. It's tough to dismiss. And when people only see what they want to see, one of the things you can do to break through that is to tell them a story, especially a human story that they can relate to. In fact, all of next week's message is one big story, and you'll see how it worked to knock down our fifth and final wall. All right, we're out of time, but real quick. What if the person on the other side of the wall in the middle of the bridge keeps believing a lie, even after you've done everything you can to gently, humbly disprove their evidence? What do you do then? You just repeat the truth again and again, the way that we've been talking here. Just keep using these techniques to gently share the truth. Did you know that marketing people say it takes somebody 7 times to hear a message and remember what you're talking about or get hooked by it? You aren't going to have one information helping conversation and then have that person come around. That's just not how it works. The goal is listening, not correcting. It's to get them to listen and for you to listen. But if you listen enough and if they listen enough, then there's a chance they'll start to see their own flawed thinking based on misinformation and then respond accordingly. But it's got to happen time after time, not all at once. 7 times to get the message across. Remember, this is all about relationship and having healthy relationship when you aren't on the same side of the bridge. And yes, that 7 times is draining and it's consuming, but it's worth it because this relationship matters to you. You value this person. Now, these solutions, they're not always going to land us on the same side of the divide, but we can at least use them to have conversations that are respectful and helpful. And maybe when it comes to misinformation, you'll be able to help those you love and care about start to remove themselves from some dangerous thinking and start to see what's true.
In the kingdom of light, in the poured out your life just to give us new life. Now from the lips of the forgiven, hear an anthem arise, 'cause Jesus, you're alive. Oh, you reign above it all, you reign above it all. Over the universe and over every heart, there is no higher name. Jesus, you reign above it all. Let all of heaven and the earth erupt in song. Sing hallelujah to the everlasting one. There is no higher name. Jesus, you reign above it all. Oh, you reign above it all. You sent the darkness running out of an empty grave, now seated alone in glory, enthroned on the highest praise. You sent the darkness running out of an empty grave, now seated alone in glory, enthroned on the highest praise. You sent the darkness running out of an empty grave, now seated alone in glory, enthroned on the highest praise. You sent the darkness running out of an empty grave, now seated alone in glory, enthroned on the highest praise. Oh, you reign above it all, you reign above it all. Over the universe and over every heart, there is no higher name. Jesus, you reign above it all. Let all of heaven and the earth erupt in song. Sing hallelujah to the everlasting one. There is no higher name. Jesus, you reign above it all. Oh, you reign above it all. Jesus, you reign above it all. Oh, Jesus, you reign above it all. You reign above it all. Over the universe and over every heart, there is no higher name. Jesus, you reign above it all. Let all of heaven and the earth erupt in song. Sing hallelujah to the everlasting one. There is no higher name. Jesus, you reign above it all. God, will you help us this week? Walk boldly in faith towards you. No matter where we are right now, if we're in a good place or we are struggling or we are somewhere in between, will you help us turn our focus to you and live in that truth that there is no higher name. God, we put all of our trust, all of our faith, all of our confidence in that because we know that you really do reign above it all. What a beautiful gift that is. What a beautiful peace that is, knowing that you are in control. You are in control of all things, God. And all God's people said, Amen.